There is a quiet trap that holds more people back than failure ever could, and it doesn't look dangerous at all. It feels safe, reasonable, even intelligent. It's the feeling of being almost there, almost ready to begin, almost confident enough to take the step, almost certain it will work, and so you wait, convincing yourself that one more day, one more plan, one more sign will finally push you over the edge. But that edge never comes, does it? You see, almost is not progress. It is permission to remain exactly where you are. It is a comfortable illusion that disguises hesitation as preparation, and the mind is clever in this way. It will tell you that you're being careful, that you're being strategic, that timing matters. But beneath all of that is a simple truth. You are delaying a decision. Life does not respond to your intentions. It does not rearrange itself because you are close. It responds to certainty. It responds to the moment you stop negotiating with yourself and declare inwardly that it is already done. Until then, you remain in a state of becoming without ever arriving. Think about how long you've been standing at this threshold. How many times you've told yourself, I'm almost ready. And yet the circumstances remain the same. The opportunities feel just out of reach. The version of yourself you imagine still feels like someone you are trying to catch up to, instead of someone you already are. This is not because you lack ability. It is not because you lack time, or resources, or even clarity. It is because you have accepted the illusion that readiness comes before action. But readiness is not something you achieve. It is something you assume. The moment you decide, fully and without condition, that you are ready, something shifts within you. And that shift is what begins to reorganize everything outside of you. The world you experience is not waiting for you to be perfect. It is waiting for you to be definite, to move from almost to now, to stop rehearsing the life you want, and start inhabiting it in your mind, in your feeling, in your state of being. Because as long as you remain in almost, you are divided. One part of you leans forward, desiring change, while another part holds back, asking for more proof. And this division weakens your power. It sends a mixed signal, and life can only mirror that confusion back to you. But the moment you become whole in your decision, when there is no more almost, no more waiting, no more conditions, you step into a different state entirely. A state where movement feels natural, where opportunities appear aligned, where the path begins to reveal itself not because it was hidden, but because you were no longer withholding your commitment from it. You were never meant to live in the space between intention and action. You were meant to cross it. And the truth is, the moment you stop saying, I'm almost there, is the moment you arrive. Everything you experience in this world is filtered through something far more powerful than circumstances, and that is your state of being. Long before anything changes on the outside, it has already taken form within you. The way you feel, the way you perceive, the way you silently define yourself, this is the foundation upon which your entire reality is built. Most people attempt to change their lives by manipulating conditions. They chase results, hoping that once something external shifts, they will finally feel different inside. But this approach keeps them in a constant cycle of waiting. Waiting for success to feel confident, waiting for validation to feel worthy, waiting for opportunity to feel capable. And in doing so, they unknowingly place their power outside of themselves. But your state is not a reaction to life, it is the cause of it. It is the invisible force that shapes how life shows up for you. If you carry a state of doubt, you will interpret neutral events as obstacles. If you carry a state of certainty, the very same events begin to look like opportunities. Nothing outside has changed, and yet everything feels different. That is the power of your internal world. Consider how two people can stand in the same situation and walk away with completely different experiences. One sees limitation, the other sees possibility. One feels stuck, the other feels inspired. The difference is not in the environment, it is in the state they occupy. And that state determines not only what they see, but what they attract, what they act upon, and ultimately what they become. Your state is like a lens, coloring every moment of your life. But more than that, it is also a magnet. It draws to you experiences that are in harmony with how you feel and who you believe yourself to be. If you consistently dwell in a state of lack, you will continue to encounter reasons to feel that lack. If you step into a state of abundance, even before it physically appears, you begin to notice doors that were always there but previously invisible to you. This is why effort alone is not enough. You can take action from a place of fear, and that action will carry the energy of fear. You can work tirelessly while still feeling unworthy, and no matter how much you achieve, it will never feel like enough, because the state you return to will always define the meaning of your results. So the real question is not what do I need to do, but who am I being while I do it? Are you operating from a state of hesitation or from a state of certainty? Are you moving with the identity of someone who is trying to become or someone who already is? The shift happens the moment you stop waiting for the outside world to confirm your worth, your readiness, or your success. Instead, you assume it internally. You embody it. You allow yourself to feel it as real now without condition. And as you do, your perception changes, your decisions change, your energy changes, and life begins to respond accordingly. You are not separate from the reality you desire. You are the source of it. And the moment you consciously choose your state, instead of unconsciously reacting to circumstances, you step into a level of power that most people never realize they have. Everything you are seeking is waiting on the other side of that shift. Change your state, and you change your world. There comes a moment just before everything begins to change, where it feels as though everything is pushing against you. The mind grows louder, not quieter. Doubt becomes more convincing, not less, and the very step you once felt inspired to take now feels heavier than ever. Most people interpret this moment as a warning. They believe the discomfort means they are not ready, that something is wrong, that perhaps they should wait a little longer. But what if this feeling is not resistance to be avoided, but confirmation of where you stand? You must understand, the closer you move toward a new state of being, the more the old state attempts to hold its ground. It has been your identity for so long, your privichka of thought, your privichka of feeling, that it does not simply dissolve the moment you decide to change. It pushes back. It presents you with every familiar fear, every past limitation, every reason you once believed you could not move forward. Not because it has power over you, but because you have given it power through repetition. So when fear begins to rise, it is not appearing to stop you. It is appearing because you are no longer aligned with it in the same way. You are stepping beyond it, and in doing so you become aware of it more intensely. This is why the moment before transformation often feels like the most uncertain place you've ever been. You are no longer fully identified with your old self, but you have not yet fully stabilized into the new one. You are in a sense between worlds, and this space can feel uncomfortable, even unsettling. The mind will search for certainty, for something familiar to hold on to. It will try to pull you back into old patterns because those patterns feel known and the unknown feels risky. But what you must realize is that every expansion requires you to walk through this space. There is no transformation without this moment of tension. Think of it as a threshold. On one side is the life you have known, the habits, the beliefs, the limitations that have defined your experience. On the other side is something entirely different. Something you have imagined, desired, perhaps even glimpsed in moments of clarity. And standing between these two is fear. Not as an obstacle, but as a gatekeeper. Most turn back here. Not because they cannot move forward, but because they misinterpret the feeling. They assume that confidence should come first, that certainty should be complete before they take the step. But it is the step itself that creates the certainty. It is the decision made in the presence of fear that begins to dissolve it. You are not meant to wait until doubt disappears. You are meant to see through it, to recognize that it is simply the echo of an old state trying to reassert itself. And the more you identify with your new direction, the less authority that voice holds over you. This is where your power becomes real. Not when everything feels easy, not when everything feels clear, but when you choose to move forward anyway. When you decide that the vision you hold is more true than the fear you feel. When you stop negotiating with doubt and begin standing in certainty, even if your voice shakes, even if your steps feel uncertain. Because on the other side of this moment, something shifts. The fear that once felt overwhelming begins to lose its intensity. The path that once seemed unclear begins to unfold. And you realize that what you thought was holding you back was actually the final sign that you were ready. The fear you feel is not the enemy. It is the evidence that you are about to become someone new. There is a moment in every transformation that does not look dramatic from the outside, yet it carries more power than years of effort. It is the moment of decision, Not a casual preference, not a hopeful wish, but a clear, unwavering choice made within yourself. And most people underestimate this moment because it is invisible. No one applauds it, no one sees it. But it is here that your entire life begins to take a new direction. You have been taught to believe that change is the result of action alone, that if you just work harder, push further, or wait long enough, something will eventually shift. But action without decision is scattered. It lacks identity, it lacks certainty, and so it produces inconsistent results. You may move, but you do not truly advance. A true decision is different. It closes the door to alternatives. It removes the quiet negotiation you have been having with yourself. It is the point where you no longer say, "I will try," or "I hope this works," but instead declare inwardly, "This is who I am now." And in that moment, something stabilizes within you. Your energy becomes focused. Your thoughts begin to align. Your actions, even the smallest ones, start to carry a different weight. Consider how often you have delayed this moment. You tell yourself you need more clarity, more confidence, more assurance that things will work out. But clarity does not come before decision. It comes because of it. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it is a result. When you decide, truly decide, you begin to see differently. You begin to move differently. And what once felt uncertain starts to organize itself around your commitment. Life responds to decisiveness in a way that hesitation never can. When you are uncertain, you send a mixed signal. One part of you moves forward, another part pulls back, and so your experience reflects that inconsistency. But when you are decided, when there is no longer a question of whether you will follow through, everything begins to align with that certainty. Opportunities appear, not because they were created in that moment, but because you are now in a state that can recognize and act on them. This is why a single decision can outweigh years of effort, because it shifts who you are being. It is not just about choosing a goal, it is about choosing an identity. The person who has what you desire does not wake up each day wondering if it will happen. They move from the assumption that it already belongs to them, and that assumption informs every thought, every action, every response. You do not need to force yourself into massive change overnight. What you need is to become definite, to remove the idea that there is another option. When you decide, you stop retreating into old patterns. You stop entertaining doubt as if it holds authority. You begin to live in a way that reflects your new position, even before the world confirms it. And yes, there will still be moments of uncertainty. There will still be times when the old voice tries to return. But a true decision does not disappear in the presence of discomfort. It remains, it anchors you. It reminds you that you are no longer the person who questions every step. You are the one who has already chosen the direction. Everything that follows, every action, every opportunity, every result flows from that single point. One decision, fully made, has the power to change everything. There is a part of this journey that many try to avoid, yet it is unavoidable if real change is to occur. You cannot step into a new life while holding tightly to the version of yourself that belongs to the old one. And this is where the real work begins. Not in gaining more, but in releasing what no longer aligns with who you have decided to be. It is tempting to believe that transformation is about adding something, more discipline, more knowledge, more effort, but what truly holds most people in place is not what they lack, it is what they refuse to let go of. Old assumptions, familiar doubts, inherited beliefs, and quiet excuses that have been repeated so often they feel like truth. These form an identity, and that identity shapes everything you experience. You may say you desire growth, success, or a different reality, but if you are still thinking from the same patterns, reacting from the same emotions, and defining yourself in the same limited ways, nothing truly changes. You simply carry the past into the present and expect a different outcome. But life does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are being. Letting go is not always comfortable, because what you release is often what feels familiar. Even limitations can feel safe when they have been with you long enough. They require no risk, no expansion, no stepping into the unknown, but they also guarantee that nothing new can enter. You cannot hold on to the belief that you are not enough and at the same time fully experience a life that demands you to be more. This is why the process can feel like a kind of internal conflict. One part of you is reaching forward, imagining something greater, while another part resists holding on to the known. And if you are not aware, that resistance can quietly shape your choices. You hesitate when you should move. You doubt when you should trust. You retreat into habits that feel comfortable but keep you confined. But the moment you become conscious of this, you gain the ability to choose differently. You begin to see that the old version of you is not something you must fight. It is something you must outgrow. And outgrowing requires a willingness to release your attachment to it. Not forcefully, not with frustration, but with clarity. You simply recognize that it no longer serves the direction you have chosen. This means letting go of the story that says you are limited, letting go of the need for constant validation, letting go of the patterns that once felt like protection but now act as barriers. It may even mean letting go of how you have defined yourself for years, because the identity you carry is not fixed. It is something you have practiced into existence, and it can be practiced into something new. As you release these layers, something begins to open within you. There is more space, more clarity, more alignment with the direction you have decided upon. Your actions begin to feel less forced, because they are no longer in conflict with who you believe yourself to be. You are not trying to become, you are allowing yourself to be. And this is where transformation becomes natural. Not because it is easy, but because it is no longer resisted from within. You are no longer divided between who you were and who you wish to be. You have made room for the new by letting go of the old. What you release is not a loss. It is the very reason you can move forward. You cannot become who you are meant to be while holding on to who you used to be. There is a subtle shift that marks the final step, and it is so simple that most people overlook it. After all the reflection, all the inner change, all the decisions and release, there comes a moment where you are no longer preparing to become, but choosing to be. Not someday, not gradually, but now. And this is where everything begins to solidify. You have already seen that waiting keeps you in almost. You have understood that your state shapes your reality. You have faced the fear that rises before change, made a clear decision, and released what no longer serves you. Now there is only one thing left, to step fully into the version of yourself who already has what you desire. This does not mean pretending in a superficial way. It is not about forcing behavior or imitating confidence. It is about occupying the inner position of that person so completely that it feels natural to you. The person you wish to become is not waiting in the future. They exist as a state you can assume in this very moment. Ask yourself, how would you think if it were already done? How would you feel if there were nothing left to prove, nothing left to chase? How would you move through your day if you were no longer trying to become successful, but knew that you already are? These are not questions meant to entertain the mind. They are invitations to shift your identity, because everything you do flows from who you believe yourself to be. If you still see yourself as someone who is striving, you will continue to experience life as a struggle. If you see yourself as someone who is already established in what you desire, your actions begin to reflect that certainty. You no longer hesitate in the same way. You no longer seek constant reassurance. There is a quiet confidence that guides you. At first, this may feel unfamiliar. The mind may try to pull you back into old ways of thinking, reminding you of past results, past failures, past limitations. But those belong to a version of you that you have already chosen to leave behind. You do not need to argue with those thoughts. You simply do not return to them. You remain in the state you have chosen. This is what it means to live as if, not as an act, but as a commitment to your new identity. You align your inner world with the outcome you desire so completely that it no longer feels distant. And as you sustain this state, something begins to happen. Your outer world starts to reorganize itself in ways that reflect this new position. Opportunities appear that match your new level of expectation. People respond to you differently, not because they have changed, but because you have. Even challenges take on a different meaning. They are no longer seen as obstacles, but as part of the unfolding process. You are not forcing life to change. You are allowing it to mirror who you have become. And this is the difference between effort and alignment. Effort pushes against reality, trying to shape it from the outside. Alignment transforms reality from within, making change feel natural and inevitable. The final step is not something you do once and forget. It is something you return to, moment by moment, until it becomes your default way of being. You remind yourself, not through words alone, but through feeling, through awareness, through presence, that it is already done. And when you reach this point, you realize that nothing was ever missing. there was only a state waiting to be assumed. Become it now, and everything else will follow.